What's up everybody, Ian and Casey here, taking you through a Pelvic Magic Mini where we're just going over scissor slides from every direction. Nothing isometric, nothing holding, just getting your pelvis moving every possible way we can think of. So we have you in 90 degrees, we're gonna speed through this. We got straight up angle right here, straight up angle right here. Let's have you slide just the tiniest little bit there. Perfect, good. Now put this in between here. And now this sequence is very important, okay? So we first start with a squeeze of the foam roller, 5 out of 10. Then we pull our heels down. That should get hamstrings above the knees. Then we're gonna pull our butt towards our heels. And that should be the money one that really gets you those hamstrings by your sit bones. Now I get asked all the time, should you keep those on? To a certain extent. You're trying to move, so don't think you have to stay locked. We don't want that. But now we're gonna basically get you to have this right knee slide up to the ceiling and your left knee down. Just hold that right here. This is a great position to get acquainted with. When you pull your left side down and your right side up, you should feel almost as if your body shifted over to your left side and it was accepted over there by your left adductor, your inner thigh. So he's here, we just did this. So he's pulling himself over to his left side and holding right now. This femur is up. This one has come across and it's down, so it's being pulled into the socket. Now let's just have you switch for 20 reps, nice and smooth. Good, okay? So he's just getting good motion, the pelvis is turning left and right. I like to think about the belt buckle as what's turning, so you can kind of think about that. And we're just getting these good relative motions, one side doing one thing, the other side doing the other. As always, this is the model. It doesn't move all that much, but it can give you a good little visual. So you're gonna get 20 reps of that, and then we're gonna go into sideline. These can be something that just become part of your routine. Really, really great way to do it. One little tidbit about it is if you can't get any movement at all, put your hands on here real quick for me. And as you do it, just turn the foam roller with your hands. So just that feedback of initiating the hand rotating and getting that friction on your hips will help you get them moving. It's not crazy for you to have you do this your first time and your hips literally don't move at all, or you're just like, the only thing you can do is arch your lower back. I didn't say it yet, but his back is flat. It's relaxed into the ground. He's not pushing into the ground, but it should have relaxed into the ground when we found our hamstrings in the beginning. How many? You got 20?
17, 18.
Good, just do 2 more and then we'll flip over onto your left side. Beautiful, so I'll take that. You're on your left side. This is gonna be your turn into your pillow, okay? Very important here, same angles, okay? So this one's even harder to get the angles right, especially by yourself. You're gonna move your feet this way, and now you're gonna move your butt closer to the wall. Now, if there's a border, let's have you put your foot above the border. There you go. Now, the other thing with this is the feet don't necessarily have to touch, so if you want to have an inch between them, that's perfectly fine, okay? Now, really important, we got the right hand here. Do that nice little reach, and then try to stay a little longer for me. There you go, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go. Now, he has a mouse hole here. If you want, you can put the burrito under here like we do in other classes. I'll put a picture below the class. So you could just put a towel here in between his ribs and his pelvis. And now he's gonna go ahead and slide his right knee forward and up and just hold, okay? So here he is on his right side. All we did was slide this forward and then abduct it. So now his right glute, this whole area right here, his butt should be working. You feel that? Good. Take a breath or two. Give me a little exhale so you feel left abs and right glute working together. So it's like he's slid forward. Good. If you're in this position and you feel your ankles are your limiter, like you feel tight in your calves, you probably set up with your feet too far back and they need to actually move forward a little bit. So there's a little troubleshooting for you there. Now he's going to do the opposite. So we went forward and up. Now pull down and in. Good. And you're almost trying to get to your other knee. Now slide that forward and up. And now you're going to do 12 of those. So there is movement everywhere. So he's basically sliding that forward. This is coming forward, this is going up. It's pulling down, so he's adducting on the way back. So he's going down and in. And this adductor right here should work. So his inner thigh should be working there. As he goes forward and up, his butt should be working to get him there. Beautiful, and getting 12. It's impossible for your lower back to not move. So that's okay, because look what we're trying to move. If I move this stuff, this is obviously going to move, so that's okay. Now, if your sternum turns, you probably went a little too far. If your head moves, you definitely went too far. What we often see with this is when people are missing this motion, they try to fake it in another way. So you'll see someone hike up their right hip, so they can't go forward or back, so they do this, and they end up hiking. If you hiked up, you would crush the ground over here. You don't necessarily need to have the same mouse hole the whole time, because there's going to be some movement, but if you're crushing the ground on the left side, you probably did too much, okay? After you get 12 of those, you'll just flip over. Trying to keep this to a mini, but also go really in depth, so. Okay, now on this side, one of our big focuses oftentimes is right glute and left inner thigh. Just basic kind of things that we've learned from PRI. So go ahead and move your feet forward. Good. So there's that 90-degree angle that's very helpful for some people. Now we're going to put the ball in here. There's probably a better ball, but we'll start with that one. And all he's going to do is try to slide his left knee forward and up. And then when he goes back, I want you to crush that ball. So pull it back and down and crush the ball. And you should feel your left inner thigh. Hold that right there. Another thing to get acquainted with. So we have right abs are pulling away from the ground. He hasn't hiked up. So notice same idea. Now he's here and he's pulling this down and back. And we're not flipping and hiking. We're not arching our lower back or any of that other stuff. And you're just holding right there. Give me a good long exhale and feel your inner thigh. Working to go here and working to go in. Beautiful. Full exhale, pause and hold your breath. So if you identify, hey, I can't feel this. Okay, well, you need to stay here. You need to spend more time here. You need to do 3 sets of 5 breaths, 4 sets even. Do it a few different times, you know, like really get acquainted with this muscle. So when you do your scissor slides and all the other pelvic magic stuff, we can get these to work for us instead of you're just faking the motion. Now go forward and up. And your up will be a little bit less because you're kind of keep the ball there to a certain extent, and now pull it back. And let's do another 12 of those. What I want you to do is I actually want you to bring your whole torso towards me. There you go. So what I noticed from that angle was that he was a little bit leaned back. Now he should be kind of head to butt. So there's like a nice straight line, like he's stacked. Same idea. Use this hand not to tension, not to go crazy on, but just to give you feedback of whether are you moving through your pelvis or are you just turning your whole entire spine? Is your head moving? At first, try to get micro movements because that's what we're talking about. Remember, this is a model, so it's not going to be this crazy amount of motion. I might really just be looking for this tiny little bit of movement. But if you don't even get that and everything above just does it for you, or you arch your back to do it, or you hike up and kind of cheat in a different plane of motion, then we're not really getting what we want anyway. So kind of think about that. And same thing, you're gonna get 12 of them. On this side, again, it's a very key for human beings, just because our general asymmetries, to feel your left inner thigh, to feel your right glute. So that's why we added the ball. Could you add the ball to the other side? Absolutely, totally. Good. Good. If anybody has trouble with 90 degrees, everything we've done at 90 degrees, you should probably go back to try hook lying, which is going to be below 90 degrees with more of an angle here and you're flat on your back. Add a low reach to it, do some arm out to side stuff. There's a lot of different options to get you back to 90 degrees of hip flexion. If you were someone who had a pinch at 90 degrees, meaning like you just got to 90 degrees here, you always feel a pinch in your lunge, then this is going to be a little too advanced for you. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into our side lying position on the other side, but we're going to do a straight leg version now, so let's set that up. Okay, next up, a little bit of a difficult setup, so let's talk through it. So now we're doing basically a straight leg scissor slide, which is really like a hip hike. We want you to be in line. So notice that his knee, his hip, and his head are really in line, his whole torso, everything's in line. If you're one of those people that didn't have 90 degrees of hip flexion, you already hated the first two because you were pinching, it didn't go well. But if you needed to, you could bend this knee so it looks like this. So just get this back here. Good. So there's less than 90 degrees, and that's an option. I really love how we have it here, especially if you got it, because he can pull this left foot back. Move your foot forward a little bit. he can pull this left foot back, and that'll give him like a little bit of this hamstring and let him stabilize the left side of his pelvis so that the right is moving as the left stays there. So the floor and his hamstring are locking this in, and he's able to hike this up and then unhike it. Hike this up and unhike it while this stays blocked by the ground. Now, we're gonna just do 20 reps. As he brings this up, he crushes the ground under my hand over here. As he goes away, he pulls his left abs away. The other thing that would be even more helpful is when you come back, you can kind of keep your foot supinated. When you go away from you, you evert and you try to pull the outside of your foot there, and that should light up the outside of your butt. So you're basically taking your foot and pulling the pinky towards the outside of your knee so that your foot rotates out. And you're just gonna do 20 of them. We're setting up. You'll notice Casey's doing a good job of basically keeping his belt buckle and his sternum in line. He's not rotating towards the ground. It's really easy to turn your chest left here, but I want you to stay relatively straight. We do have a pillow. It's not a great one, but it is one. So try to make sure you have a good pillow. And you can use that right hand to just monitor where you are in space. If you notice that you're turning all the way, push the ground away a little bit. And we're really looking for this to stay just the tiniest bit there. So that little bit of rolling forward is what keeps everything together. Because think about it like this, similar to some of the side planks that we do, he wants to turn his chest to the ground and turn his hip away from the ground. But when they come together and lock, that's when we just move through the target tissue and in that target range of motion, instead of having them disconnect and go opposite directions. So when they stay together, we're able to get the length in the right spot and just get that nice smooth motion. As always about pelvic magic, it's not about unhiking and staying there. It's not about hiking the opposite side and staying there. It's about, can you hike and unhike on both sides? Can you go forward on one and back on the other? Can you do all these different motions at the pelvis and keep them? That's what we want. And when you keep them, your femur and your hip rotation and your hip mobility and all that stuff gets a lot better. So make sure as you go out, you're keeping that. So go out. Good. Just do 2 more. I don't know how many you've done at this point, but just do 2 more. Good. So that stays forward. Yeah. And I said supinate as you come back, but for most people to start, just keep the foot everted the whole time like Casey has it. So he's tilting it out like that. Good. You feel how that kind of turns on the butt, right? Should be a different experience. All right, let's have you flip over, switch sides. This will be here. We'll slide this over here. You don't necessarily need this, this Jenga Tetris set of the yoga blocks, but sometimes those details can really help. Move this foot forward. Good, nice 90-degree angle there. Straighten this out. Good. Line all the way up. You're gonna have to go a little bit more that way. Yeah, that way, so you have a little bit of room, unless you got one leg longer than the other, which brings up a great point. You know what to do. Roll this hip forward, stay locked in, and just go nice and out and in. So really great point. I'm surprised no one's even asked about it yet, but it's really common for people to say, oh, I was told one leg is longer than the other. Do you guys see how if my hip is stayed, or if it's stuck hiked on one side, someone could potentially say, hey, your leg is longer than the other? Well, try unhiking it and then retest, which I really wouldn't retest because it's really not a big deal. It's more important that you have the range of motion than saying, oh, look how even my legs are on a table, especially if you're not having any issues. Don't get caught up in those little details like that. Beautiful, much better. So that cleaned up nicely. So again, nice and smooth. Looking for that nice straight line here. And you're gonna need just the tiniest bit. You'll feel even more. There you go. Good. Good. Most people are gonna need it more. So this little fix that I'm doing for him where I rolled him forward a little bit, most people are gonna need it even more on the opposite side, but that doesn't mean that you're not in line here. And you see he's doing a great job of it's just the hip hiking down. It's not a turn. It's not a arch. He's not spilling his bowl of water forward. If you wanted to give yourself a little bit of feedback, Casey, go ahead and put your hand right here. During any of our stuff, and you're working on your pelvis, notice that when he does this, it's just going up and down. He's not spilling forward. He's not turning. So it's not like his belt buckle's turning towards his right leg. It's not turning back either, which is really common. So we're essentially trying to put you in a position where you can isolate a motion at your pelvis. Just do 3 more. At home, you're supposed to have done 20. Realistically, 10's good. We just got this full setup, so we're gonna try to do 20. Do 2 more. All the way out, all the way in. For everybody, it's a little bit different. It makes sense to kind of inhale as your foot goes away from you and exhale as it comes towards you, but I could also make an argument for the opposite. Mess around with it, have fun, play around, see what works best for you, what feels best. Okay, last one. Let's just quickly get into it. You're gonna get into a bear position against the wall, so feet on the wall facing that way. You could have a ball between your knees, but we're not gonna do it. So he's got his feet. He's gonna go ahead and get into the bear. He's gonna lift his knees up, and let's have your knees a little closer together. Good. Now, all he's doing is exactly what you did upside down from this position. So lift the knees, and then just try to pull one hip into the socket while the other one taps the ground, and then bring it back. So tap one side, pull the other one back. And this is a really good situation to see. What I'm not saying, you know what most people will say is to be like, yeah, have a glass of water on your back, which is great. Sometimes we need to keep our lower back from moving. I want that glass of water to spill. I just want it to spill from here because that's what I'm trying to get to move. I don't want it to spill here. So if he can get his thoracic spine to stay relatively locked in with a reach, you're only gonna do 6 on each side. We don't wanna get this one to be 2. This one's definitely a progression. So if you're in this and like your body's like, ooh, it's like all over the place, it's really tough, just start with the ones that are straight up. In the beginning that we did with the foam roller, that's obviously just the opposite of this. Now you're going against gravity, so it should be harder. Okay, I feel like I just really, woo, that was quick, okay. So that's our Pelvic Magic Mini on this one. If you have any questions, let us know. The goal of these is to break down some of the big concepts in pelvic magic, and then when you go back to going through the whole series, whether it's more advanced or even the beginner ones again, you're able to understand them and skill these and even say, hey, I really need to work on this particular movement on that side. Let me do more of that before my next run. And then we get to be way more valuable than just taking classes. Instead, you get to know exactly what you need for yourself. Enjoy the rest of your day and let us know if you have any questions.